day, fret friends. This is the second of 2 Harley Bentons I have in the workshop. Same client. We have had a double cut or a SG type, and this one is a single cut, which is a Les Paul type. Again, different configuration on the volume and tone. This is more like the ESP type Les Paul guitars. I believe you will have 2 volumes and 1 master tone. Neck volume, bridge volume, master tone for both. P90 pickups in here. Don't be fooled by thinking that these are cheap rubbish pickups. They are made by Roswell. I have had guitars with Roswell pickups in the past, not been that impressed, but these are a different kettle of fish. They are absolutely fantastic. This guitar plays and sounds beautifully. So Harley Benton custom line, budget guitar, Grover tuners, good Roswell pickups, glued in neck. This one has strap locks on there as standard, gold hardware, made by Sung Il, a very good reputable Asian maker of guitar parts. If you ever buy guitar parts in Asia, you always look for the name Sung Il because they make good stuff. The electrics I've not looked at. So why is this in? Well, it's a brand new guitar, and unfortunately with these guitars you always tend to need a little bit of fretwork, and the nut is graphite. We're going to replace the nut for a bone nut, which I'm going to carve from a blank. I've already part cut the nut to my template, so we've got the right width and everything. I still need to cut it back and get it all polished up and get the grooves slotted in there. I will charge you for cutting a bone nut from a complete blank. I would normally charge you £65, but because this guy's had 2 guitars in, I'm charging him £55 for a new one. It is going to need a fret level, so we're going to have to remove the old nut anyway. I've already checked the frets. I will, however, be taking the strings off once I've checked the setup. I'll be taking the strings off, and we'll be checking the frets again with a straight neck. But that's where I think we are going to be. Like I say, I'm going to check the guitar with the setup as it is. I'm going to alter a couple of things to set it up how I think it should be set up. Make sure we've got no scratchy parts, make sure the intonation's right, get the guitar as I would like it to play. Then we're going to take strings off and we're going to check the frets properly. If it needs a complete fret level, it will get one. We are cutting a bone nut from scratch. Worst case scenario, 115 quid for a fret level with a setup, 55 quid for the nut. You're looking at 170 quid when all said and done. Might seem a lot. The guitar itself, I believe, I think retail between 160 and 180 pounds. So you're looking at a total outlay of 350 pounds. Now that for a guitar with a new nut on there, complete fret level, blah blah blah, but a working, superb looking, greatly weighted, super weight on this guitar. For £350, which would be gig worthy in anybody's estimation. I think that is a pretty good deal. Some may think it's a false economy buying one of these guitars. I have my own thoughts on that. I think if you're happy to pay £350 for a guitar that looks as good as this and is going to play perfectly, then that is absolutely fine. I wouldn't consider that too expensive. So like I say, I'm going to do the things I've mentioned, and I will come back and give you updates periodically. Good morning, fret friends, and it is morning, early morning. We are at 5:30 AM, or just past 5:30 AM, and we do have the single cut Harley Benton custom on the night bench, because we've got the LED lights up there, which gives us, it makes it very good for me to be able to see. Anyway, not straight edge, we have the neck set dead straight. We'll just slightly alter the truss rod, and we're going to go across with fret rocker and just see if we have any high frets, or how many high frets there are. I have a permanent marker pen so I can mark the frets where they are high. Fret rocker 4-sided precision straight edge. The reason it's 4-sided is we always check 3 frets at a time, and we rotate and alternate as we come further up the neck, so we can always check 3 frets. And the reason we always check 3 is if there's a high one, the fret rocker will rock. So we're just going to go across, listen for a rock. We have 3 areas. We'll call area next to you number 1, the middle number 2, and area next to me number 3. And if I write this down, it will give me a key and a map in case a pen rubs off. A pen won't rub off, it is permanent marker. I've in the past done it with non-permanent marker and that does rub off. But anyway, I'm just going to scoot across. So we already have 2 frets in the first 4. Okay, I can tell straight away with 3 in the first 5 we're going to need a fret level on this complete. Not a surprise to me, not a surprise to the owner. The owner thought it was going to need a fret level anyway, he's already budgeted for it. Here you go. So unfortunately the frets on this brand new guitar are all over the place, and that's the thing, they sometimes can seem to be a bit of a false economy. These guitars, by the way, they're not £180 as I mentioned. I think they retail at around £220. So if I'm charging you 170 quid for a fret level, new nut, setup, whatever. In effect, this guitar is costing you 390 quid. Is it worth 390 quid? I think once it's done, yes, but I think you can get better guitars for that brand new, depending on what you want. I mean, I suppose with Harley Benton you're paying for the style of guitars. I mean, it looks great. You're not paying for the name, certainly not paying for the name. A lot of people hold Harley Bentons in pretty low regard, which is a shame, because they are potentially really good guitars, but you know, it's up to you end of the day. If you think it's going to need a fret level and a setup, budget 150 quid. Well, probably not as much as that, but this is having a brand new bone nut cut from a blank, which I charge £65. Also the setup with a complete fret level I charge £115. That takes you to 180. Set of strings 185. I'm actually charging 150 quid for this. I'm not 30 quid off. I've not 30. Well, I'm not 30 quid off because I'm still charging for strings. Yeah, these frets, there's loads of them. They're rocking all over the place, and that's a shame. I'd be quite happy to spend another 30 quid and have level frets. Wouldn't you? I've not been counting them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 so far. Just going to get them marked off, and once that's done I'll go back again with the fret rocker. Oh, that's not good. Oh, that's not good. So we have 11 frets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 high spots on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have 11 high frets with 17 high spots on those. I will try and turn the guitar so you can see on camera all the high spots are marked in black marker pen. You should be able to see that. And I do count high spots, not just high frets. For instance, this fret has 2 high areas, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, just 2 on that, 2 and 3, 3, 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, 3, 2, 1 and 3. So let's go again. We're going to listen for a rock. I do this for the owner's peace of mind, so he knows he's getting what he's paying for. And there you go, 17 high spots over 11 frets. So complete fret level. Already took the nut off. I knew I was going to need a fret level anyway. So I'm going to take some areas of the guitar and I'm going to just scoot across with a leveling file. I'm going to spot level all the high spots off. Then we're going to level the lot with a leveling beam. You know how it works. You've seen how we do this job. I don't have to explain every single thing on every single video. I just want to show, don't forget these videos are always for the client, not for the general public. I only normally film the fret rocker part at this angle, but because I'm leveling the frets, I'm going to show you the file I'm using. It's my Chris Allsop. It's a diamond file. It is precision ground, completely flat, and I'm spot leveling. So I'm going across all the areas with black pen and leveling like this. Now this is going to remove a lot of material, and it's going to scratch up all of the frets, but that is absolutely fine, because the way you work this is you're going to get resistance, but once you stop getting resistance, right, you know you've got the frets level. And once I've done all I need to do with this spot leveling file, is I'll go over all of the frets with a leveling beam, which will also remove some of the scratches. But what we're going to do is we're just going to check the frets that I've already done, and I think we'll find that we've got a little bit of a high one there, so I need a bit more work on that one. But we are more or less level at this end, and that is good news, because like I say, this is a really good. We've got another one there as well, so we're going to keep going, making sure we follow the radius. I also need to concentrate the filing a bit shorter and more filing at this end, because the frets are closer together. I think that kind of explains itself. To get a closer look, if I stand up, I'll see the work I've done. We have filings all over the fingerboard. I'm going to brush those off. I'm going to check frets. Let's have a look. I can see the tops of the frets have all been hit with the file. And it's a shame that a new guitar needs so much fret leveling. Really shouldn't happen. You'd have thought with technology today and quality control and what have you, I think someone you want to look at is probably Rob Chapman. Rob Chapman's guitars, they come with rolled edges, stainless steel frets and everything. And okay, the guitar's going to cost you 800-900 quid, but you know, you're getting, I'm not saying we don't need fret leveling. I've never actually had a Chapman guitar in the workshop, so I don't know how good they are, but they sound very impressive. Surely we'd pay an extra £100 if we got frets with stainless steel frets in a perfect level. Thing is, if all guitars have stainless steel frets, it's going to put me out of a job. And not everyone likes stainless steel frets. Looking pretty good. I am going to move the camera for the next part of the leveling, which I'm going to be doing with the leveling beam. But these frets are level. We're now going to scoot across with a proper leveling beam with some finer, well, not totally fine sandpaper. We're going to go with some 240 grit, then with some 400 grit, just to smooth them off and make sure they're level along the whole length. Because it is possible, but sometimes when we get a rock, it may just be a low fret. It's very, very rare. A high fret is a high fret and a high spot is a high spot. But we could be a little bit undulating along the length. So we'll go with the leveling beam, we do the lot in one go. And something else about these frets, they are slightly sticking out at the edge. I will address that and we'll file down these edges the bevels, and we'll round these bevels off again anyway. That's a little bit more I'll explain a little bit more about that a bit later on. Back to a more familiar angle. When I find the permanent marker, I will mark up all the frets. There you go. I can feel the file marks in there now, but the frets should now be level. What we're going to do is we're going to proper level with a leveling beam. It's also going to smooth out some of these deeper scratches, because there are deeper scratches when we're using a file. We're now going to go to a leveling beam with 240 grit one side, 140 grit the other. Then we're going to finish off with a radius beam with some 400 grit on there, which is going to make sure we've got maintain the radius. It's also going to remove the scratches, makes it easy to polish later on. So, one thing we do when we're using a leveling beam is to follow a radius. We're going to go straight down the centre, but we're going to keep going straight. So we're going to overlap at this end, because that's going to maintain the radius correctly. If you can follow, if for instance here's a leveling beam. By GMI, my favourite guitar tool company. We have 240 grit that side, 400 grit this side. And to maintain the radius, we need to make sure we keep the file straight. So we don't follow the line of the neck, we keep it straight. So when we get here, we start to overlap to maintain the correct radius. And what we're looking to do with this is remove all of the black pen, because then we'll know that the frets are all level. If we're getting any high spots or low spots anywhere, we'll still have black pen on the fret. So all being well, this won't take too long. And there, my friends, is all of the black pen gone. Tiny little spot just there. Just going to go again. And that is all of the black pen gone off all of the frets, which is fantastic. Now don't forget, we went with permanent marker, so if we did miss anything, there would be black on the tops of the frets. There is not. To prove that there isn't, I'm going to go up to the fret rocker again. That's my stomach starting off. My stomach will have to wait. I don't eat from around about 7 PM until I finish my shift at Royal Mail next day. It's kind of part of a intermittent water fasting I've been doing for a while, which to me it works for me. So I'll be just drinking water and tea until I eat, maybe at 2 PM. So excuse my stomach. But anyway, these frets are level. The neck is straight. I've not finished with the leveling beam yet though. We've gone with probably 300 grit file, some 240 grit sandpaper, and now we're going to finish off with some 400 grit sandpaper. But that is wonderful. The frets are level, fantastic. So we pen up again. I actually don't know the radius of this fingerboard. I'm going to imagine it's something between 12 and 14. It's a really, really great sounding guitar, this. P90 pickups, I've never really liked P90 pickups that much, but these are. It just gives you that, you know, you're almost fat like a humbucker, but you can still get that twang like a single coil, somewhere in between. I'd imagine my choice of pots for this would be about 300k pots, and any capacitor from 0.047 to 0.02 to something in the middle, here and again 0.033, would be pretty good. It's more or less the setup I've got in my Telecaster, where I have a humbucker and a single coil. Anyway, back to where we are. Now using the 400 grit, same again, just smoothing everything off. Get rid of all the pen. Not pressing down, just nice and light. That is all of the pen gone off the top, so a little bit there. Just going to scoot across this side again. Sometimes just turning the beam around helps. Close inspection under the LED light, that looks fantastic. Yeah, we are level. That's brilliant. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to check the radius. Fortunately, my radius gauge is out. Let's go with a 12. Yeah, that's saying 12 to me. Just check with a 10 and a 14 while I have them to hand. It's not a 10. And check with a 14. Is also very close. Very difficult to tell between a 12 and a 14 sometimes. Could be a 14. No, 14 is a bit too flat. I do believe it is a 12. I'm going to go and check online and I'll get the right radius beam out and I'll come back. Just checked on the website, it is a 14-inch radius. So that's what we're going to go with. Pen them up again. Whatever paper I've got on the beam I'm going to get, we're going to use, whether it be 400 or 320 or 240, because I can always polish up again using the 400 grit on the flat beam. Once I know I've got the radius maintained on the frets, chances are we won't have the radius correctly maintained. I would like to see slightly bigger fret wire on these. I'd imagine this is somewhere around about 2.3, 2.5. More of a vintage kind of fret wire. I'd like to see some 2.8 on there. That's just my preference. So let's see where we are in regards to. Right, okay, I've got 14 here. It does have 240 grit on, but it is well used. So this will be fine. We're likely to be using 400 grit. Excuse me, mate, I'm just going to sneeze. Okay. It's worked all the way down here, but not so much at the top end. So I'm going to turn over. I'm going to half and half there. I'm quite happy with that. So I'm going to check the tops of the frets. Doesn't take a lot of work to get the radius bang on. And yeah, that's very good. We are there. Because I've got over, even with some old 240, I'm just going to finish off again with the levelling beam. I don't remember where I've put it, there it is. And that makes me very happy. All the pen is off the top. We've got the frets more or less not smooth yet. We need to move on to the polishing stage next. What I'm going to do is I'm going to squirt some naphtha on the fingerboard, get rid of all the dust we've got on there. I'm actually going to do it right now. It will slightly dry the board, that's not a problem. We're going to oil it later anyway. Good thing about it getting it dry now is it'll take the tape really, really well. So we don't have naphtha in England, so we use Zippo lighter fluid, which is basically pure naphtha. That'll evaporate in a few seconds. We can help it along just by giving it a wipe. so, and there you go, more or less evaporated. That will give us a nice clean surface. We're going to tape up the fingerboard, we're going to leave just the frets exposed, and we're going to move on to the polishing stage. Apologies, I did just say we're going to move on to the polishing stage. No, we're not. We're going to move on to the recrowning, then we're going to move on to the polishing. Crowning the frets, not polishing yet, crowning. Right, so what do I mean by crowning? Well, we've filed and sanded the frets this way, and we've flattened the tops like so. And going this way across the fret, it's supposed to be like that, it's a crown. So we've got a thinner bit on the top where the string meets the fret, and that means we're not going to get any buzz. Now if we've got flat frets, we're going to get buzz all along the length. So what we need to do is we need to rebuild that crown going this way. And in the olden days we'd have used a 3-cornered file with flat ground safe edges, so we didn't cut into the board, and we just file and bend it over until we start rebuilding that crown. But nowadays we have something simple like a Stumac Z file. This is £125 and it is worth every penny. Just going to grab a cloth and I'll explain why. Now if you look at this, it's a diamond file, and on this side it has a long cut, and on the near side close to it has a short cut. Turn it 180 degrees, it's the opposite. Short cut next to me, long cut next to you. And what we do is 2 or 3 strokes either side, and what this file will not do is it will not touch the top of the fret. And I'm going to show you, and I'm hoping you can see there, but really easy. Because it's a diamond file, it cuts really well. 3 or 4 strokes that way. 3 or 4 strokes that way. It does cut in both directions. Always clean the file. We've left a nice thin black line down the centre. We've rebuilt the crown, more or less. It's not perfectly round because it's a flat file, this one. So we take another one, which is a profiling file. This was a gift to me from Nigel Roberts, Leicestershire Luthier.co.uk. He's now retired, taken over by my good friend Danny Lint, who was Nigel's apprentice. And this is going to cut or shape the perfect profile. And it's just, again, a few strokes. And we have recrowned 1 fret. Really easy with these diamond files. I do believe this is an Elmer Guitars file. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that, but it really looks like one with a black handle and everything. I nearly bought one of these last week to replace this one, which I'm going to do in the future. But anyway, move on to the next one, just show you again. Oops. Nice thin black line down the centre. Clean the file again. Profile to remove any burrs or any inconsistencies, and just round off those slightly flat edges, and there you go. That is how simple it is. It is not difficult at all. It's a lot quicker than it was in the old days. Beautiful work, really easy, and I'm going to crack on. I've got 20 odd more to do, and that's it. 3 files crowned. I'm going to crack on, get the rest done. Once that's done, then I can bring you back in and we'll move on to the polishing. And here we are with probably everyone's least favourite part of fretwork, and that is polishing the frets. And what I'll do first is, because paper I'm starting with, or sandpaper I'm starting with, 400 grit, has aluminium oxide in it, I'm going to use a rubber glove. And I did cut off certain parts of a rubber glove, being the thumb and the 2 end fingers, which everything will become apparent in a moment. Like so. There you go, because I use these 2 fingers. So we're going to take some 400 grit. This is not really polishing, but this is going to get the main scratches out going this way. So I take some 400 grit, and we're just going to basically just over the top with this. Nice and easy. Just go in that way till the pen's removed. We've got nice thin black lines down the centre of all of these frets now, where we've recrowned them. And We're just going to remove all of that pen, which is in itself, it's going to remove the scratches as well. And once I've done all of these frets, I'm going to go through 6 different grits of sandpaper, being thinnest 2000, 1500, 1200, 1000. I can separate it. 1000, 800 and 600. I'll explain more about that in a second when I'm not taking that phone call, it's spam. Let's get rid of that. So back to where we were, yeah, so the 600 is one I'm going to be starting with, and we were just going over the top with the 400 just to remove the scratches. I'm going to show you how we polish a fret. When we're polishing, we go through the 6 different grits, going with the most coarse first, 600 grit, and it will be a matter of just going over the top and getting in at the far side, coming in at the near side, and again going over the top, like so. And we'll go through with the 6 different grits all the way. We're using a finer grit each time, and eventually we'll get rid of all the scratches, will be gone, and we'll bring these to a nice shine. But we'll finish off with some steel wool, but I'll explain more about that later. So let's give you a brief explanation of what we're doing. Basically, I'm just going to go through the 7 grits until we get to the final polishing stage, which will be with super fine or extra fine steel wool. Once we get to the steel wool stage, these frets will be they'll be scratch free and super shiny. So I'm going to crack on, I'm going to get them done. I will come back in an hour or 2, it could be nearer 2, and I will show you the results. Just about finished polishing my frets. I've gone through 7 grits of sandpaper, 400 through 2000, and as promised, finishing off with the finest grade steel wool, which is extra fine or grade 0000. Got these last 2 to do, and when it comes to the final polishing, we go all across or up and down the bevels first, then we come to finish off the polishing on the fret itself, across the top like so, into the far side, getting right into the corner, into the near side, getting right into the corner, and again across the top. I'd normally have gloves on for this. I have gloves on for, I'll just take it off because I've been to the loo. You don't really need to know that, but there you go. But I'm going to put the glove on anyway, just to show I adapt my surgical gloves for polishing, because I'm only using these 2 fingers. I cut the tips off here, and this way it stops me getting, especially this paper, it has aluminium oxide in there. Aluminium is a vile substance. My dad died of cancer, riddled with cancer. He polished aluminium all his life. It really is horrendously poisonous. Anyway, last fret, here we go. Over the top, into the corner on the far side, into the corner on the near side, and that is it. The frets are all finished. So they've been levelled, recrowned and polished. All that remains to be done is we're going to remove the tape. Now you see why I put a strip down the edge. It's easier to remove this way rather than individually keep pulling between 1 fret at a time, or between 2 frets at a time. And here we are with the tape removed and some lemon oil sprayed over fingerboard just to treat the wood, to clean it up and to moisten, put a little bit of moisture in there. I recommend we do this every 6 months to a year, depending on how heavily we play with guitar. I'm going to let that do its magic, soak it in for 10 minutes and I'll wipe it off, and we can look at getting the nut cut. With the nut glued in place, we need to mark the top of the nut for the new slots. And I'll just check the old nut with my nut spacing ruler, just to make sure these are spaced right, and if they are, we will use the nut itself for marking out, and that is, yeah, that's fine, that's bang on. So if we just line up the nut, the old nut, and I just need to make sure that the gap from the binding there and the gap from the binding there are more or less the same. We can go a little bit lower on the higher strings, but I do like it to be nice and consistent. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark If I could actually pencil straight, these would be brilliant. That's not bad, I can work with that. Just have a look, that looks pretty good. And all I need to do then is take my thinnest file, using my old Hosco one, and just mark where they want to be. And that will do. That gives me a marker for each one. And I can cut them with the relevant or the correct nut file. Nut files I'm going to be using are going to be my Hosco ones. I've shown many times how to cut the nuts, so I'm going to do this off camera. I'll be using my precision Hosco files. There you go. They cut a perfect U shape. They weren't cheap. I think these were 125, 130 quid for the set. And I'm going to come to the depth I want. I'll explain more about that when I've done it. I'll bring you back in just as I'm finishing it off so you know exactly what I have done. I'm more or less where I want to be with the nut slots. Just bear with me a second while I put the last file away, and I'll show you how I measure the nut slot depth or the height above the first fret. So I'm always looking for, on the first string, I'm looking for a gap from the top of the fret to the bottom of the string of about 0.2 millimeters on the treble side and about 0.3 millimeters on the bass side. So about 0.25 in between. So we're gradient from 0.2 to 0.3, and we go slightly higher until we get to 0.3 on this end. So I'm always looking for about 0.2 over here, and I'm just going to get the right feeler gauge, and you're just looking for a gentle buzz, which you've got there, 0.2. Next one along, then we're going to change to a 0.25 for the two middle strings. We're looking for about 0.25ish around here, and also on this string, the fourth string, which we have, and 0.3 and a little under 0.3 there. And I've put the old strings on to cut the knot. There you go, I put the old strings on. We can now discard the old strings. I can carve the top of a nut to exactly how I want it, polish that up, then we can get the new strings on. So we're not far from being finished now. Now I have the nut slots cut. We've moved over to the other bench. This is actually the fretting bench. We're in the vise, we're all safe, everything's padded, and we're going to final shape the nut. Now these slots are quite deep. I like the string half in, half out on the bass string, so I'm going to use two files. I'm going to use a coarse levelling file, I'm going to use my fine number 4 cut file. Really simple. Mask everything up. Don't go mental, keep checking your work. This file will remove a lot of material, so keep checking. And that's it. You don't need to watch me do this, it's really simple to do. You can see what I'm doing, you know how simple it is. Just keep checking, and once I'm where I want to be, I'll come with the finer file, smooth it all off, get a bit of sandpaper on there, smooth it off. We'll round over the edges, blah blah blah, you know how it works. I'm going to crack on, get this done. I'm not going to leave the camera running. Once it's done, we'll get some strings on and we'll get this guitar finished. I've moved back over to the night bench and we're just going to tidy up. That was my knee I've just banged, by the way, on my desk. I'm just going to tidy up these fret slots just to make sure that the fret slots go all the way to the end of the nut, because I've angled the nut back. Really simple here. We already have the depth cut to the correct depth, so we're just going to do two things. Just angle that back on each one. Just make sure we have cut all the way back to the end of the knot, which we have. And I'm going to flare open the back side of each slot. just to give us a little bit of movement each way. So the 46 we've already gone as wide as we can, but we're going to do it a little bit on a couple of other frets. Just flares it open at the end there, just so we've got a little bit more movement. Then we're just going to round off again with the correct one. Make sure we've got the 28 there, which we have. 36 and 46, and that is those done. We're going to do the same. With these three. That was actually the wrong one on file of you, but that's fine. I'm only out in the end. That was good anyway. That was good. We're going to take the 26 or 28, which is the closest, and just flare open the end of each one just a little. And this one, we'll just take the 16. I find it. There you go. And that's it. We've flared open all the ends on this far side. We have a groove going all the way across the nut. The nut is nice and low. And we are done as far as nut cutting is concerned. Can I get some strings on, get the guitar set up, and we will be good to go. Let's remove this bit of tape. And how is that? That is so low. That's beautiful. Morning, fret friends. We are a dark and dank Saturday morning. The time is 8:30 in the morning, and it is dark and dank out there, but you know, wintry times. So I am under the night bench, or I'm on the night bench with the guitar all finished, and what a lovely guitar it is. The last thing I did was cut and shape the nut. Try and get you in a bit closer there. There is the brand new nut, cut nice and low, shaped. It's a bone nut cut by hand. I would normally charge £65 for cutting a bone nut by hand. In this instance, I have charged £35 because the guy has had a lot more work done as well. He's had a complete fret level set up, as well as leveling the frets. We've recrowned them and polished them. And what a stunning guitar. And because he bought two guitars in, I knocked him 20% off. He's had two guitars fret leveled with a new bone nut on there. You would have been looking at £180 each. I've charged him £150 each. Plus a set of strings on each. We've got a D'Addario 1046s. And what a lovely guitar this is. The P90 pickups are beautiful. The guitar plays astoundingly well. Nice low action on here. 1.6 on the bass, 1.4 on the treble, that's at the 12th fret. A lovely low cut hand carved bone nut on there, and one of my special setups. Still got the plastic on the back of the control cavities there. And what lovely, lovely guitars these are. I am seriously considering buying one myself. I will be going for the Floyd Rose and Grover tuner. Basically it's an Eclipse type guitar. They retail at £285, all gold hardware. You have a gold proper Floyd Rose, even though it's the Korean 1000 model with gold Grover tuners. It's in a matte black. I'm going to buy that and refret it with gold Evo. But that's another story. This is all about this guitar, and it is the Harley Benton SC custom line, that single cut custom line P90 version. What a beautiful guitar. If it's nothing for you to go and pay for a fret level and set up and get a bone nut put on there, these are a good value guitar, £220, but do be aware that you are probably going to need some fret work, and I would always swap out the nut. They have these really quite shoddy. They are a graphite type plastic compound nut, but they're not good at all. We'll just replace that with a bone one that I cut from a blank. That's one I've cut from a blank as well. That's for another guitar. And yeah, beautiful job. So the project is finished. I'm going to move on to something else before I do. A reminder of my website. which is facebook.com/ng17. Again, facebook.com/NGONESEVEN. Just want to show me tattoo. I'm having a cover-up job done, just a little bit on there, just from one of my clients who mentioned it earlier. On an earlier thing, just give you a quick show of that. We've got more to do on this side, that's another thing. But anyway, check out my website, you can find out anything you need to know about Fret Friend. And that's it until the next project. So as always, God bless you, be good to each other, and I will see you in the next one.